The final DLC for Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor has been released, and this time it's set thousands of years before the original campaign following Celebrimbor's efforts against the mighty Sauron. We went back to Middle-earth to face off against the Uruks once more in the Bright Lord.
Return to me what is mine, betrayer.
You will drown in waves of Uruk hatred, you elf monster!
The One has taken hold of you, Celebrimbor.
Oh, Hex, it's so much fun to be back into this. Mordor was one of my favourite games from last year, and I'd been hanging out to explore a bit more of Celebrimbor's backstory as he was such a pivotal part of the original campaign.
Yeah, and it's a significant event in the timeline. Celebrimbor has stolen the One Ring from Sauron and is using it to try and overthrow him and avenge his murdered wife. And possessing the ring means you have access to all those wraith powers we spent so much time building towards. So it makes sense as a narrative device. Still, ballsy move.
I quite quickly fell back into the rhythm of this game, Hex, and there are some subtle differences to the way Celebrimbor plays compared to Talion. His elf shot is deadly, and doesn't need to be fully charged to take an enemy out. The ring also lets him slow time and pull off executions, dominate Uroks en masse, and weaken captains while active.
I did notice that using the bow doesn't slow time like it did with Talion's though, so that's a good balance point. It packs a punch, but you can't rely on it as much in battle because your enemies will often be on top of you before you get the chance to fire.
Domination is definitely the main focus of this DLC, which makes sense because he spent most of the original game working up to that ability.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the ring to call a troop of Uruks to fight for you with the tap of a button. And the game quickly becomes about trying to bring as many over to your side as you travel across the land. You'll then need to build towers once you've dominated the area's captain, securing each section of the map.
Dominating captains is handy too, because if you call on your battle troop in an area with a dominated captain, he'll come and fight for you as well. I didn't find the difficulty very balanced though, it just seemed to jump between punishing and far too easy.
Yeah, I think it was okay. I think there's just a lot of variables with your encounters. I very quickly became reacquainted with this game's particular brand of equal parts satisfying and rage-worthy gameplay. Particularly when being set upon by multiple captains at once.
Now I will be recognized as a true warrior.
And the captains on the whole are tougher, averaging at about level 18 to 20 at the start.
But every time you get to use the One Ring, you feel like a god.
Yeah, you are limited as to how often you can use it though.
True, more to the point, it comes down to the ability to dominate so easily with the ring. It shifts the balance of those captain fights significantly. If you quickly turn everyone to your side, you can pretty much take out the captain without contest.
I had quite a few of those easy combo mash fights too. Although admittedly I did come close to death quite a few times just from being cocky. But then I had this rune that gave me a second chance to come back after being defeated. I highly recommend equipping that one.
I like the different challenges you are set in order to claim an area, like freeing Uruk supporters, or defending ramparts while branding a required number of enemies.
Yeah, especially when those battles take place across a chasm and you can use that shadow strike to teleport and dominate in one swift movement. There really is still such a wonderful sense of fluidity to the combat in this game, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's really what calls to players with this DLC. More of that delicious combat, and working your way through the Dark Lord's army. And it's actually pretty good value with a decent length for its price.
Yeah, it just doesn't really do a whole lot to set itself apart from the original game though. It is essentially more of the same.
Enough games!
Which, as you say, may be enough if you're a big fan of the core action. As for the story, well, while feeling authentically in line with Tolkien canon, it's pretty ho-hum and predictable in my opinion. Yes, Celebrimbor wields great power with the One Ring.
In the One, I have a weapon that could reforge my fates and illuminate the path through this darkness.
But what do we know about anyone who attempts to wear that thing for any extended length of time?
All hear Celebrimbor and know their true master!
Yeah.
It does give you a sense of why he was so messed up in the original game, though. For me, this was a welcome return to Mordor. I enjoyed succumbing to the sweet, sweet taste of the One Ring's mighty power.
I mean, I thought this was fine because the game itself is so good, but I did also find myself going through the motions a little bit with this. I was just hoping for something a little bit more inventive, at least in the story, but maybe that's being reserved for an actual sequel. What are you giving this DLC?
I'm giving it 3 stars.
I'm gonna give it 2.
I will know victory. I will know glory. I will know revenge. And you will know subjugation by my hand.